Nestled in the Green Mountains of southwestern Vermont lies a region shrouded in inexplicable mystery, the Bennington Triangle. Known for a series of chilling disappearances that occurred between 1945 and 1950, this area became notorious as people vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and fear. Join us as we delve into the enigmatic world of the Bennington Triangle, where the boundaries between reality and the unknown blur, and where answers remain forever out of reach. Unlike the mythical Bermuda Triangle, the events within the Bennington Triangle are well documented. The series of unexplained disappearances has led to a string of investigations, articles, and conjectures, but no one has ever been able to provide definitive answers to what really transpired within this ominous region. This area is centered around Glastenbury Mountain and encompasses the towns of Bennington, Woodford, Shaftsbury, and Somerset. An eerie stillness permeates the dense forests, and a shadowy legacy of unexplained phenomena has given the region a reputation that sends chills down the spines of even the most skeptical. Unexplained noises, mysterious lights, strange odors, and, most chilling of all, the disappearances of at least 5 individuals between 1945 and 1950 have created a lore that continues to fascinate and terrify. The landscape itself is imbued with an enigmatic quality. Dense forests, rugged terrain, and unexpected weather changes create an atmosphere that some have described as otherworldly. There are reports of strange wind patterns and inexplicable cold spots even during warm weather. Native American tribes historically avoided the Glastonbury Mountain area, with some legends suggesting that they regarded the land as cursed. They allegedly warned against spending time there, believing it to be the dwelling place of malevolent spirits. The crux of the Bennington Triangle's notoriety lies in its perplexing disappearances. From an experienced hunter to an 8-year-old child, the individuals who have vanished were of various ages and backgrounds, and the only thing they all have in common is a chilling story behind their disappearance. On a cold November day in 1945, a strange occurrence marked the beginning of the terrifying legend that would eventually surround the Bennington Triangle. Midi Rivers, a 74-year-old experienced hunter and fisherman, mysteriously disappeared without a trace, sparking fear, intrigue, and fascination that endures to this day. Midi was known as a seasoned outdoorsman with intimate knowledge of the local terrain. He had spent countless hours guiding hunting parties through the dense forests surrounding Glastenbury Mountain. On November 12, 1945, Rivers led a group of 4 hunters into the wilderness. They were confident in their leader's expertise, not anticipating that this excursion would be different from any other. Rivers was in his element, navigating the familiar trails with ease. As the day wore on, the group began to make their way back to camp. Rivers was walking ahead, not far from the others, but just out of sight. When the group reached the trail that led to their camp, Rivers was nowhere to be found. The hunters were initially unfazed, assuming that Rivers had merely strayed from the path or gone ahead to the camp. But as time wore on and there was no sign of him, concern grew. A search party was quickly organized, comprising local residents who knew Rivers well. They scoured the area, combing through the thick underbrush and dense forest. They searched through the night and into the next day, but found no trace of Rivers or any of his belongings. Local authorities were alerted, and the search expanded. Law enforcement joined volunteers in what became an intensive week-long operation. Rivers' disappearance caught the attention of the media, and the story was featured prominently in local newspapers like the Bennington Banner and the Rutland Herald. Journalists flocked to the area, interviewing family members, friends, and members of the search party. The story captured the public's imagination, and speculations began to surface. Despite the extensive search and media attention, few clues were ever found. One of the few pieces of evidence was a single rifle cartridge found in a stream. It matched the type that Rivers had been known to use, but its connection to his disappearance was never definitively proven. Various theories emerged over time, ranging from the mundane to the extraordinary. Some suggested that Rivers, despite his expertise, had become disoriented and lost his way. Others posited that he had been the victim of an accident, perhaps falling into a hidden crevice or suffering a medical emergency. Still, others looked to more sinister explanations. Rivers' disappearance left a deep impact on the local community. A man well known and respected had vanished in an area he knew like the back of his hand. Fear and uncertainty began to settle over the region. The disappearance of Midi Rivers became the first in a series of inexplicable vanishings in the Bennington Triangle. It laid the foundation for a legend that would grow with each subsequent incident. Just over a year after the chilling disappearance of Midi Rivers, the Bennington Triangle would once again find itself at the center of a mystery that would captivate the nation and deepen the enigma of this perplexing region. This time, it was 18-year-old Paula Weldon, who would vanish without a trace, leaving behind a trail of questions and a legacy that continues to intrigue and terrify. Paula Weldon was a sophomore at Bennington College, studying art. She was known by her friends and family as a bright and cheerful young woman. On December 1st, 1946, after finishing her shift at the dining hall, Paula told her roommate that she was going for a hike on the long trail near Glastenbury Mountain. It was a spontaneous decision, made without much planning, almost as if something was calling her. She was dressed in casual clothing, including a red parka jacket, jeans, and sneakers. Despite the cold weather, she was not appropriately dressed for a long hike. She left the campus and hitchhiked her way to the trailhead, caught by several people, including a local newspaper employee named Ernest Whitman. Upon reaching the trail, Paula began her hike. Several people reported seeing her that day on the trail, including an elderly couple hiking about 100 yards behind her. They later reported seeing her take a path that led to the mountain's summit, but losing sight of her as she moved ahead. Her decision to hike alone and her lack of preparation would later be scrutinized and would add to the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Paula was not carrying any extra clothing, food, or survival equipment, just a single walking stick. When Paula failed to return to the campus by the next morning, her roommate raised the alarm. College authorities were informed, and a massive search began. Paula's father, W. Archibald Weldon, a well-known industrialist, quickly arrived in Bennington and took charge of the search. Local authorities, college students, military personnel from a nearby base, and residents joined the effort, scouring the woods and trails. Rewards were offered, and bloodhounds were brought in to assist. Rumors and speculations abounded. Some believed Paula had run away with a lover, while others thought she had met with foul play. The possibility that she had simply become lost and succumbed to the elements was also considered. Investigations continued for months, and various leads were followed. One of the theories that gained traction was that Paula had crossed paths with an escaped convict hiding in the woods. However, no concrete evidence was ever found to support this claim. Some believed that she had become injured and disoriented, wandering off the trail and succumbing to the harsh winter conditions. This seemed plausible, given her lack of preparation and experience. The FBI was eventually involved, and they conducted a thorough investigation. They interviewed everyone who had seen Paula that day and examined all possible angles, but they too were left without answers. On the very same date, 3 years after the disappearance of Paula Weldon, another baffling case would unfold in the same region. This time, the mystery would revolve around a man named James E. Tedford, and his disappearance would only deepen the terror and intrigue surrounding this perplexing area. James E. Tedford was a veteran of World War II and a resident of the Bennington Soldiers' Home. He had experienced his fair share of hardship and turmoil during the war. But what awaited him on December 1st, 1949, was something entirely inexplicable. Tedford was returning to Bennington from a visit to his family in St. Albans, Vermont. He boarded the bus in good spirits, carrying a small suitcase with his belongings. His fellow passengers and the bus driver would later confirm seeing him on the bus as it made its way toward Bennington. The weather was clear and the road conditions were normal. The journey was uneventful, with regular stops along the route. Passengers boarded and disembarked, but Tedford remained in his seat, seemingly enjoying the ride. However, as the bus approached its final destination, something strange occurred. The passengers who had been sitting near Tedford reported that at some point they realized he was no longer in his seat. His belongings were still there, including his suitcase and an open bus timetable. But Tedford had vanished without a trace. Upon arrival in Bennington, the bus driver and other passengers alerted the authorities to Tedford's disappearance. A search of the bus was conducted, but there was no sign of him. The bus had not made any unscheduled stops, and no one had seen Tedford leave the bus. His disappearance seemed impossible. The local police were baffled. They interviewed all the passengers and the driver, trying to piece together the events of that day. But the more they investigated, the more mysterious the case became. Headlines such as "Man vanishes from moving bus" and "Veteran disappears without a trace" fueled public fascination and fear. The eerie coincidence of the date, exactly 3 years after Paula Weldon's disappearance, did not go unnoticed. The legend of the Bennington Triangle was growing, and Tedford's case added a new layer of terror and intrigue. The lack of answers and the seemingly impossible nature of his disappearance continued to captivate and terrify those drawn to the unknown. Was it a mere coincidence that he vanished on the same date as Paula Weldon? Or is there something more sinister at work in the shadows of the Bennington Triangle? As if the mysteries of the Bennington Triangle were not unsettling enough, another disappearance would rock the community in 1950. This time, the case involved a young boy named Paul Jepson, and the circumstances surrounding his disappearance were as confounding as the ones that had come before. Paul Jepson was a lively 8-year-old boy. His family lived in the Bennington area, where his father worked as a caretaker for the local dump. On the day of Paul's disappearance, his mother, Florence Jepson, had taken him with her to the dump while she was feeding the pigs. On the afternoon of October 12, 1950, Florence left Paul in the truck while she attended to her chores. The boy was happily playing inside the vehicle, and his mother thought nothing of leaving him for a short time. However, when she returned to the truck, Paul was gone. Frantic, Florence searched the immediate area and called for her son, but there was no response. There were no signs of a struggle, no clues as to where Paul might have gone. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. The local authorities were quickly notified, and a massive search effort was launched. Hundreds of volunteers combed the surrounding woods and fields, while bloodhounds were brought in to track the boy's scent. However, the dogs seemed confused and were unable to pick up a trail. The search went on for days, then weeks, but no trace of Paul was ever found. Despite the extensive effort, the disappearance remained a complete mystery. There were no witnesses, no leads, and no explanation for what had happened to the young boy. Paul's mother, Florence, later claimed that her son had seemed oddly drawn to the mountains in the days leading up to his disappearance, as if something was calling him. This eerie detail only added to the mystique of the case and led some to consider more supernatural explanations. A mere 2 weeks after the vanishing of Paul Jepson, the Bennington Triangle claimed yet another victim, a woman named Frieda Langer. Unlike previous cases, Langer's case had an unexpected turn, and her story became the last of the infamous disappearances associated with the region during the 1940s and 1950s. Frieda Langer, aged 53, was an experienced hiker and outdoor enthusiast. On October 28, 1950, she and her cousin Herbert Elsner decided to take a hike near the Somerset Reservoir, an area within the Bennington Triangle. Langer was familiar with the region and had hiked there several times. During the hike, Langer slipped and fell into a stream. Though unhurt, she was soaked and decided to return to the family campsite nearby to change her clothes. Elsner waited for her, but when Langer didn't return, he went back to the campsite only to find that she had never arrived. An extensive search was promptly initiated, involving law enforcement, local volunteers, and even the U.S. Army from a nearby base. Aircraft were deployed to survey the region, and searchers on foot scoured the wilderness, but no trace of Langer was found. The search continued for weeks, making it one of the most extensive search efforts in Vermont history. But like previous Bennington Triangle cases, it ended in frustration and confusion with no evidence to explain Langer's disappearance. In a shocking twist, Frieda Langer's body was discovered nearly 7 months later on May 12, 1951. It was found near Somerset Reservoir in an open area that had been searched multiple times previously. The condition of the remains made it impossible to determine the cause of death, and the mystery of what happened to Langer remained unsolved. The discovery raised more questions than answers, as there was no explanation as to why her body had not been found earlier in an area that had been so thoroughly searched. The fact that her body appeared in a previously searched area also gave rise to supernatural theories. Was the Bennington Triangle a place of mysterious forces that could hide and reveal at will? The disappearance and subsequent discovery of Frieda Langer's body marked a chilling end to a series of unexplained vanishings within the Bennington Triangle. Langer's story, along with the other cases, has cemented the Bennington Triangle's reputation as a place of enigmatic terror. It's a region that seems to defy logic, where ordinary hikes can turn into inexplicable nightmares. In the Bennington Triangle, the line between the known and the unknown is thin and blurred. A boundary that once crossed may never be retracted.